All right, this is your boy Daniel Lyons Evans. You are live inside the den. Uh, by the way, for you all who are just joining us, this is a live, unscripted, unrehearsed show, and we are actually talking about all type of things. And today, this episode 2, I have a very special guest with me today. This is my engineer. This is Caleb Vigil. And we're gonna be talking about some computer topics. This guy has been doing computer programming and computer work for over 20 years, and he is one of my go-to guys when it comes down to all things tech savvy, things like that. So you're inside the den. So just to start it off, Caleb, tell us over the last 10, 15 years, how has your expertise had to be changed and advanced in the field of computer programming?
For the last 10, 15 years, it's mostly being knowledgeable and as far as technology being released every couple months. Um, a lot of it has to do with knowledge, really. Hands-on, you can always learn. Uh, Hands-on, you can always learn momentarily, but after after you read, you look up articles online, you do as much research as you can. You got all the knowledge, and maybe about 20% of that is, applied as far as you doing the work. Because really, technology changes so fast nowadays compared to 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that it's really hard to keep up with everything that's coming available.
Okay. I remember we talked last week about like how fast technology changed. I remember I was buying a computer or something maybe about 10, 15 years ago, and the guy was telling me that computer technology changes about every 60 to 90 days, and that I was going to be chasing the next upgrade every 60 90 days, and it can get really expensive on trying to keep up with the latest and greatest of technology. And in terms of as it comes down to buying computers and software and all that. So can you kind of explain to us, like, how long is the technology on a particular computer or software, or how do you keep up with the latest and greatest in the computer technology?
Uh, a lot of it has to do how much are you willing to spend, really,
Okay.
your budget. If you don't have a budget, really, you can get a new computer every year, because every year there's always going to be some new release. Component wise speaking, new graphics card, a new CPU. A new generation of computer chips. The Intel company versus AMD company. It's the battle that's been going on for ages. It's how it's always been, really. So as far as how much you're willing to spend to keep up with technology itself,
Well, I know I
yeah,
spend a pretty penny on keeping up with the phones and everything. You already know my phone game.
yeah.
I mean, I would literally, it don't matter what it is, as long as it's the new phone coming out and it's going to be better and faster than what I have now, then I would chase those phones. I think they started out with the Galaxy so many years ago. I can't even remember how long it's been, but they
Yeah.
started out with the Galaxy phone, and then the one, the two, the three, the four, five,
All the way
and
up
I
to
think now we on the
21.
20 plus. And it seems like every time Android come out with a phone, Apple comes out with a phone, and I don't even know like what number Apple is on.
It's every year.
It's crazy, but I'm just intrigued by the technology as it has advanced over the last, like I say, 10, 15, 20 years, coming from the flip phones to the first generation of Blackberries. You remember those? and then the razors, and then the droids, and that's kind of been like a real interesting like look back on technology as it pertains to the phones being smarter and faster, and then some of them smaller, and then you got the Androids that seem to be getting bigger every year versus smaller. Uh, I'm still waiting for, and maybe you can help explain to me if this is ever going to happen, but I'm still waiting on the Google Glass to come out. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, the thing with Google is they like to perfect things. That's why you don't see like a Google Pixel 9 or Google Pixel 10 or 11 or 20 like you see with the Galaxies. You only see a Google Pixel 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 was just released a couple months ago. So, Google they're going to stay on that research, development as long as they need to get it perfected. That's
So
how
I
they
mean,
are.
are they going to actually come out with that or not? 'Cause I heard they had the prototypes was out. I think the prototypes was somewhere like maybe $1,200, and then they was going through some legal issues with having an actual camera on the Google Glass, and it being a privacy infringement law or something like that. And then
Right,
I,
because of the recording.
yeah, but I haven't heard any recent news or updates on whether or not they were still working on developing that to bring it out, or if it had been trashed or whatever, or if it's still coming out, because that's something that I would definitely be interested in, just the way it's set up where you can see everything, on in before your
Before
face.
yeah, like
Yeah, man, that's got to
it's
be
like you're in the
awesome.
future, really.
Oh man, and then if you like, I guess riding a motorcycle with a helmet on or whatever, to be able to
Yeah,
see the directions on you, man, I think that'd be awesome.
stuff
But
you'd only see in the movies,
man,
really.
it's crazy. But the technology gets better and better every year, and like I was talking to you before, there, and this is just my thought, that it looks like they're trying to make the phones smart and high tech in a way where they can mimic
A
the
computer.
computer. So if
Yeah.
you are doing business at your home or your office, and you have to step away for business, then you still have the availability to use your phone, and you can connect your phone. If you got Apple phone, Apple, computer, it can be synced and be on the same page. They have an app is on
Windows.
Microsoft, where you
Yeah.
can actually have your phone to mimic your computer and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. So I guess for the sake of argument is for us to be able to have the better productivity, because a lot of businesses since the corona have been more home based now. People having to do more Zoom meetings at home, and more spreadsheets and stuff from home, and having to have those those conference calls and things like that. It just seems like with having a smartphone or having a computer that's synced up everything, it just makes it more easier to keep up with your day to day
Yeah.
on your phone and your computer as it relates to being compatible with everything.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I mean, in the computer world, it's because new technology is coming out just as fast as a new model phone every year. I mean, it's a close race. I mean, it's getting there where phones can be, you know, almost used the same as you would a laptop. You
Hmm.
know, like the model that you got, your personal phone, it kind of mimics a little bit the laptop where you got, the flip up screen, and
Hmm.
you got your keyboard that's kind of like your screen, and you can use both screens if you wanted to, or you can use just one screen for your productivity, one screen for your typing or media. So I mean, it's crazy what the human mind can invent, just to
Well,
try and
actually,
reach a
that I
certain
mean,
goal.
I guess they are trying to make the computers, mimic the human brain. And I remember watching a movie. I think it was what's the name of it? It's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I think it's called 6 Day or 7 Day or something like that. You ever seen that movie before?
No, not that. I mean,
So,
I've seen like the Terminator movies, where the Skynet.
well, so all my movie buffs out there, if y'all watch movies, y'all can probably figure out what I'm talking about. But I think it's called 6 Day. It's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. They have this machine where they're actually able to clone the human, right? But how they get the memory like clone is they have some type of chip that can that can record your brain waves and record your dreams and thoughts like that, so that when they do clone the new person, they can like already like transfer the memories and thoughts of that person into the new clone. And I've always been a real stickler of like, lucid dreams and dreams and it come down and that kind of stuff. And I've always said that one day I want to invent a machine that can record dreams, and then be able to turn them into some type of motion picture or a movie, something like that.
Yeah.
'Cause I just been a dreamer all my life, and I know that the technology is there to clone organs and things like that, and cloning sheep and things like that. Um, I just think it'd be very interesting to be able to have a machine that can record dreams and things like that. And I believe that they making these computers trying to mimic, the human brain, and that's really complicated the way God created everybody with the individualities in the brain, and be able to read somebody's thoughts. I think that'd be too dangerous, especially if you're doing police work and you're trying to interview a killer. You want to know what did he bury the bodies in?
Well, I'm sure there's some good and bad uses, on each how that would work out. But yes, I mean it's pretty complicated. Honestly, the most powerful computer on the planet is your brain,
Oh yeah,
because there's nothing in existence right now that can work the way
can
your
mimic
brain
the
works. Yeah,
ain't that crazy, man? But we still trying.
yeah. We still
So
trying.
give me like your prediction over the next 10 to 15 years as it relates to the advancement in technology in the computers, and with these self-driving cars that's supposed to be safe, and some of them are causing accidents and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Even the cars that come with their assistance, where if you swerve out of the lane, it'll jerk you back into your lane and things like that. I was driving one of those cars and I kept getting irritated because every time like you would get to the edge of the road, it'll like jerk. But what if I'm trying to make a fast maneuver? I'm trying to, it just seemed like it'll restrict you from doing something that could potentially save your life versus, like automatically jumping in to try to bump you back in your lane if you swerved off. So give me your prediction, what you think in the next 10 to 15 years for prediction of the technology advancements on these smart cars, phones, computer and the technology. And even I want you to touch on your thought about the technology advancement as it pertains to the currency.
Yeah, currency is a touchy subject, but as far as the technology goes, I mean we have VR, we have HoloLens, where it's like the Google Glass. I mean Microsoft is the one, in my opinion, that really perfected that early on. Not saying it's perfect, but in about 10, 15 years, I would say we would be at a point where we could wear something similar that would be part of our daily lives, where maybe something implanted in a certain part of our body, where we would use on a daily basis, really, to like we would use a phone. Google Maps, or call someone, look up someone's information, uh, play a game virtually. All from yourself, your head. You're controlling everything. Um, it's I'm not saying we're there yet, but if we're talking about maybe in 10, 15 years, as fast as technology is going, um, I'd say the races for we'll say the chip races, the technology races. It's always going to be there. I would think between, it's either going to be Intel, or it's going to be AMD as far as like computers at home, computers at the workplace, laptops, things like that. That's always going to be pretty much the same game. It's something's going to come out better. It could be just like the HoloLens. You got images popping out of your laptop screen that you can control with your gestures, with your movement.
Mm-hmm.
You can pause something just by flicking your finger like that, or you can call someone just by thinking of their name or thinking of that person. Yeah,
that'd be pretty. That'd be pretty wicked calling somebody just by thinking about them, because you might be thinking about somebody too much.
Well, yeah, you don't want to think about the wrong person when you.
It's already you already got to talk a certain way to keep Siri and Alexa from. It's crazy when you got to pronounce your words differently, because if you are trying to talk to Alexa, you can't say nothing that starts with an A. You say Ashley, you say Alex, or you say Echo. Those names pick up, but. So this was I was thinking about while you was talking. With the whole pandemic crisis, with them trying to get everybody vaccinated, some of the issues that they have right now they can't control, but they're working on the virtual school system and things like that. What are your thoughts as opposed to one day? We don't know how long this whole pandemic situation is going to last, but in the extent that it does last 2 or 3 more years, then what are the chances that they try to implement something like a virtual reality school setting, where you put on the goggles and you sit in the classroom and you can see your teacher and you talking to her, and you able to raise your hand and interact with your classmates, the ones that's inside the class, and even a virtual, let's say they discover that, large settings like concerts and stuff are just a cesspool of the virus, and put on a VR, virtual reality concert and games and things like that, when you can't actually be at the stadium, but you can be at the stadium virtually. Like, do you see anything like that? In the world of technology, what you're doing right now, computers, do you see anything like that transpiring to where, we'll be able to, we have to, be able to live our everyday lives, and in certain aspects of that VR?
Yeah, I easily, I would say, when I'm a big fan of anime, and I watch a lot of Japanese shows, and
Anime? What's anime?
It's
Anime like Anime Bullock, like Tina Turner, like from.
No, it's anime like
Ike Turner. Anime, come here, anime.
But that's not the right term.
Eat the cake, anime. So it's a cartoon.
Well, there's some shows where it can get like that, but.
So you talk about animation,
and
not Anime Bullock, Tina Turner. You're not talking.
No.
Okay, all right, I got you. See, I'm learning all about these. So that's more of a, what type of cartoon would that be?
It's Honestly, if you call it a cartoon,
Somebody
then
probably gonna get
that's like
offended.
an
Huh?
offense, really.
So okay, so if it's not a cartoon, it's
Not to me, but I'm saying like you walk up to Japan and say, "Hey, I'd like to watch. What cartoons you got going on?" They're gonna look at you like you some strange man.
so it's animation, but it's not. So do you know? Can you break down cartoon versus animation? Because I don't know the difference.
What the way when the Japanese created, I would say they created the mainstream anime or animation. So it's kind of like an example would be USA cartoons. Like you see Cartoon Network, you see Spider-Man shows, you see Batman Beyond, Justice League, Marvel, Super Friends, if you're familiar with those. So something similar to that sense, but a little bit more adult, and not necessarily adult meaning like sexually explicit or anything like that, but more something that is more real to life. Like it could be creative, but still anime that can be or could be based off scientific advancements or for example anime that's related to history like Japanese history. If you go down to back to like maybe 15th 16th century, a lot of history related to wars, related to demons, not necessarily demons that you might be thinking, oh, hell demons, things like that. It's more like monsters. So they mix a lot of different topics, different things. It's more adult in the sense that you'll enjoy it more than watching it like if a 5-year-old would be watching Cartoon Network or something like that. It's really hard to explain in words, but
So is Tom and Jerry considered anime or cartoon?
that's more a cartoon.
But they have a new movie out where they actually interacting with humans in a real world. Would that be considered anime or a cartoon? It's not a trick question. I just don't know the game.
Yeah,
The cartoons I grew up on, and I hope they consider cartoons. You ever heard of Thundercats?
Oh yeah.
Is that a cartoon or anime?
That's yeah. You can say that's anime.
That's anime.
That's more leaning a little bit more towards anime.
And
yeah.
G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
So that would be like. So when did it start becoming more anime and less cartoonish? Like what was the transition from mainstream cartoons to this is more real life anime? Like when did that happen, or is that even a thing?
Well, they started with those types of shows. I mean, back in like 1980s, 1980s, 1990s. It's. I would say, back then, shows that you're probably not familiar, but just something that's really popular and common among people that watch anime, like Gundam Wing, which is a show about the human race in the future, where, for example, they're fighting with each other, humans in space, humans on Earth, and they're divided, kind of like the United States was back in the day, like Confederates and Unions.
Yeah.
So they're very creative, when it comes to that sense. Like it might seem cartoony, but at the same time, you could relate it to something that happened in the real world.
Well, shoot, man, we talked about Lion King. We talked about the Lion King a couple of weeks ago, and that was a cartoon, but we trying to transfer it into real life and how that relates to what we're going through, with this. We was talking about entitlement, how, when Simba left, Pride Rock, and he was out there with Timon and Puma, and he when he left, he was more on entitlement type. I can't wait to be the king and all this kind of stuff, and he didn't really want to do a whole lot of work. He just wanted to be the king. So when his father died, he felt like he wasn't deserving of it, but he had to come back. And so that whole cartoon, is that considered cartoon or anime?
I'd say cartoon.
Okay.
I'd say cartoon, but I mean, it's there's I like the Lion King in the sense that there's still a lot of real world drama that's incorporated into a movie like that. Even if the movie came out like 20 plus some years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, didn't they say the Lion King came from an actual real story, maybe an African story, or something along the lines of I think it was Hamlet or something like that. Wasn't that Lion King made off of Shakespeare stories or something like that? I mean, I watch YouTube videos and try to find out, and I think they were saying that the Lion King storyline came from Hamlet. And you compare the characters to each other and all that. So that was a play / movie that they made into a cartoon and kind of gave it personality. I don't know.
No, it's I mean, the way they presented the Lion King, it's like how you're saying, he's all joyous and happy, and it's like, I want to be king, and then when life hits, like, it's like, bam, oh wait, I could be king now, but what am I gonna do? Like, do I step forward? Do I have to fight? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, he's just broken down, and that's in real life. When you got something big in front of you, you're like, I can get it now, I can grab it, and then you try to go for it, and then you freeze, and you're like, wait a second, is this how it's supposed to go down? Like, do I have to fight?
You know what? It's ironic you said it, because I was talking the other day about are you chasing your dream or chasing your nightmare? Did you see that? Okay. Yeah. So, and the whole point of it was, you could be chasing something for a long time, and once you get it, do you know what to do with it? Do you know how to maintain it? Do you know how to grow it? And if it's something that you can't handle, it can be easily turned into a nightmare versus a dream. Mm-hmm. But you saw the old Lion King, the cartoon from '93 or whatever?
Yeah, I saw all those Disney
Did you see the new one, the movie? It came out in 2020. The animated, the more real.
That one, no, I did not.
So you need to go watch that one.
I do need to, yeah.
Because
I've been wanting to.
In my mind, I mean, I enjoyed the new one, but they had a lot of people saying that they didn't like it because they changed the dynamics of how they made the lions look more real versus the cartoonish. Mm-hmm. Like, you didn't see Simba walk around smiling because it looked like a real lion with the way they made it realistic. I enjoy it because I don't expect to see a lion in the jungle or for whatever matter smiling. So him having a real look, it kind of made it look more real to me. But people have their own opinions. But the cartoons that I grew up on, Thundercats, I have seen the remakes and all these different cartoons. They turned into movies. They turned G.I. Joe into a movie. They turned Power Rangers into a movie. They turned the Transformers into a movie. And when these movies come out, I'm like, man, these are nice movies. I'm still waiting on my movie to come out. I'm waiting for the Thundercats movie to come out because that's the cartoon that I grew up on. When I was coming up, I remember being sick from school and couldn't go to school. I had to go to my auntie and my uncle's house and watching Thundercats while everybody was in school. That's the cartoons that I grew up on.
Those good cartoons only came out while you were in school.
Yeah, some of them came out when you was in school, and then when you got out of school about 3:30 or whatever, then you had some other ones that come on before you got your homework done. You go watch your show and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, all of that to say this, that we have advanced over the last 15 and 20 years technology wise when it comes to even just watching cartoons. Now you can watch your cartoons in anime, version of it, where they take it more like a clay form versus the cute cartoon looks more like a, you know what I mean, like the whole clay,
more clean, more refined.
Yeah. And I really think that for the sake of the Lion King and the Jungle Book, they made it into an actual motion picture. The Aladdin, they're coming out with the Little Mermaid movie and all them kind of things, because these are the cartoons and the things that we grew up on back in the 80s and 90s. If you ask a new millennial, a millennial kid about a Little Mermaid, they ain't gonna know what you're talking about. Pocahontas, they don't know nothing about no Pocahontas in them. So being able to, I guess, and this is where Disney is very, very intelligent on how they reintroduce the same thing to a new generation of kids. It's almost like you ain't got to come up with nothing new. You can recycle your old stuff and just update it and bring it to modern day, and you can have a whole nother audience of watchers, because when we got kids now, you know what I mean, the millennials now, and now we got a whole different category of kids that's watching. I remember talking to TJ last week, and we was talking about King of the Hill.
No.
He said, "Dang it, Bobby," and we was talking about some of the lines that Hank that Pop on the show says, but I remember where that character derived from watching the Beavis and Butthead movie. You remember that cartoon?
Oh man, I love Beavis and Butthead.
But you remember the movie, right? At the end of the movie, they had is his name Hank Hill, right?
Hank Hill, yeah.
Hank Hill and his wife. They was in an RV, and it was characters that identical resemble them. They wasn't big in the movie. They were just like an extra in the movie. Yeah. But hearing that voice, "Dang it, Bobby," and all of that kind of, and then when the show came out, like, you know what I mean, they got the whole show now. But a lot of kids won't even know where that came from. Just like, when you watch Bart Simpson, and I was talking saying, why don't they advance Bart Simpson, or won't they advance the Simpsons to like adulthood? Like, that's the longest running cartoon that's ever ran, right? But it came out, I think, in 1988 off the Tracy Ullman show. Did you know that? There's a comedian named Tracy Ullman. She did sketch comedy. This was, I think, either right before or right during the In Living Color era, right? And I remember, I think it might have been In Living Color, then Tracy Ullman, and then after Tracy Ullman, it would be like snippets of The Simpsons, like the prequel of The Simpsons. Bart looked real sketchy looking, you know what I mean? And then when they came out with the actual full Simpsons show, that's what you see today. But the Simpsons have been praised for their way that they predict the future. You know, people thinking that the Simpsons do time travel. And if you watch the video, my God, they have so many different instances that happen on the Simpsons.
And it's accurate.
Yes. So you figure out, where is all this coming from? You know what I mean? But I would like to see some of our childhood cartoons advance into adulthood. Like, what would the Rugrats look like if they was all adults? What would the Simpsons look like if they were adults? Just, some of those type of things to really, I think that's what creativity really comes from, being able to take something that you started and then let's make something more of it, and then still have relevant content as it relates to today's time. You know what I mean? Could you see Lisa Simpson with 3 kids and working an office job? And then we want to see how Bart Simpson turned out after he'd been so hard-headed all these years.
Well, they did do a
couple episodes, whatever.
Yeah, they did.
Well, I gotta
It's
watch those episodes. I did see a couple of times where they had like some adult moments, but let's carry the show for the next generation
yeah,
and grow them up
yeah.
to see what their life would be on a different path or just so because kids they mimic what they see, right? If you was a kid growing up in the '90s and you watched Bart Simpson on TV and Eat My Shorts, man, or whatever, and you like, what? Don't nothing ever happen to Bart Simpson. So why I got to be right? So let's show y'all what Bart Simpson life turned out because he was hard headed. And let's watch this show.
Probably some pothead.
You think he would have been a pothead if he had been grown?
Oh yeah, I say he'd be straight up pothead.
Probably be a pothead or a dope dealer or something like that. Huh?
Yep. Yeah, living in a trailer with the.
Yeah, but you know, technology gives us the ability to do that. You know, if you can, you know, if you had the ability to advance, you know, something from a cartoon to actual motion picture, I think that they need to do all the cartoons like that. Just try them into real life. I mean,
well, that's what Disney is doing.
Yeah.
That's what Disney is doing. That's why. I mean, that's the reason why a lot of people are. I wouldn't say upset, but they're, you know, they don't like the fact that Disney is moving away
from the kids,
from their origins. Yeah, because
Well-
when you think of Disney, you think like those shows that we know, like Little Mermaid and Lion King, and you know a lot of those.
man, my favorite
kid
Disney cartoon is The Princess and the Frog. Oh my God, you seen that one?
One time.
Man, that's my favorite cartoon from Disney is the Prince. Well, I would say after the Lion King, then it'd be the Princess and the Frog. But I think that the reason why Disney is moving away from the kid type of a cartoon is because, dude, we live in a different time.
Yeah, different era.
You remember Lamb
Different
Chops?
generation. Yeah.
Lamb Chops Play Along. You remember that? Them kids don't know nothing about no Lamb Chops Play Along. You know what I mean? Like the innocence of kids back in the 70s and 80s, that's gone. We born in a time now with kids, before they turn 1 year old, they already know how to use a smartphone. They can go into your phone and code your phone and out of the womb, knowing how to do that kind of stuff. And so some of the cartoons that we had out back in the days, it really hides some of the realness of life. You know what I mean? Like you want your kids grow up to be dumb to the world, or you want your kids grow up to know what's going on in the world. So they remaking these movies to kind of make it go along with the advancement of the children's as it relate to, you know, what we were when we was coming up versus what they are now. It's just a different time, a different era. You know, what was the first computer you worked on when you started getting into technology? What was the first computer?
Well, I started messing with computers really since I was preteen. I mean, I would sometimes in New York, when I was a little kid, maybe like 8 years old, we'd go visit one of our family friends. She was older, but she had a computer, and you know, to have a computer at that time, you know, I mean, meant you're pretty good. So what she had was this Windows 3.1.
Windows 3.1.
Yeah.
Back in what year?
This was pre 95.
Pre 95.
Yeah.
But there was one out before then, right? Because I remember playing Oregon Trail
There's
on that big gray box, big booty computer that you had in school, and it came on green. It was like the Matrix computer. You remember that computer? What was that? IBM or was that an Apple? What was it?
Well, the Apple was in the game back then too. They had the little I forgot the exact model name, but they had them in the schools. and I would play like the little racing games on the computers when I was like maybe 5 or 6. But they had the little Mac screens there, maybe about 14 inches big, 15 inches big. It was just like a one whole desktop. That was Apple's thing, It was to have the one piece,
Yeah.
where other manufacturers are selling their computers in pieces. Apple's was just a single piece.
Mhm.
That was kind of their thing back in the day. Was why do you need all these components and all these things running across your desk when you can just have a single screen and everything is inside your screen, and the only thing that you need out is your keyboard and mouse, which at the time, they were coming out with wireless technology for your keyboard and mouse.
Mhm.
And this
Ain't nothing like old school, man.
Yeah.
I remember that doggone Oregon Trail. You had to read the dialogue and see the little pixelated pictures on the screen and all that.
Mhm.
And that was like maybe like 80, 85, 86, 87 time frame.
Yeah, they have that on the Mac too. I used the Mac system back in school when I was in elementary school. They had Oregon Trail. They had the little race car game. They had Frogger. I know you remember Frogger, one where you kind of hop across the highway as a little frog.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
Of course, the classics like Pac-Man and
Yep.
the Asteroid.
They was making those games for learning and all that kind of stuff in the classroom setting. You had the floppy disk,
Hmm.
and then you had the mini disc.
You had two different floppies.
Yeah.
You had the 3.5 floppy, and then you had like the big 5-inch floppy.
Yeah. But technology has changed. A lot since then. From the Atari.
And the zip disk. I don't know
Yeah,
if you remember the
yes.
zip disk. So you're like,
Yeah.
oh my god, 100 megabytes in this disk. I can't believe I can fit so much data.
Man, you remember when they went from, I don't know what bit Atari was, but then you went from Atari to Nintendo, and then Nintendo you went from the 64-bit Super Nintendo to all these different advancements in the games, and every game, the graphics, enhanced tremendously.
Yeah, Sega.
Huh?
Sega was a big one.
Sega.
You had Atari, you had Sega Genesis, you had the Sony PlayStation.
You probably had all of them, man, didn't you?
Nintendo. I've owned a lot.
It was Nintendo, but my dad used to call it Nintendo. Y'all on that Nintendo game. We used to be on the Nintendo.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I was walking in Manhattan. I was with my dad. I mean, as far as I can remember, maybe 5 years old, I guess, when my brain started remembering things. Because, there's a time where you don't remember nothing when you're like a baby.
Yeah.
But
Shoot, man, I was telling somebody my daddy was the first person in my house to save the princess on Super Mario Brothers. We was at school and he had just got he got hurt from his job. He worked at a shipyard. He had got a settlement from his job, got hurt, and he bought us the game, and we'd be on there playing it on the weekends. But during the week, go to school, come home, get your homework done first, so you can jump on the game and try to save the princess. Man, I remember he was picking us up from school, and he was like, "Guess what?" And we were like, "What?" "I saved the princess. I beat the princess." I'm like, "You beat the princess? You beat the?" I'm like, "How do you even know how to cut the game on?" Like, he beat the game before we did, and we was just trying to, and then we'd get stuck. He was like, "Let me show you how to do it." He'd take the controller and do it for us again.
Hey. That's what's
But
up, man.
now, though, they got the games out now, though, man. Those games are like real, man. I think probably about 7, 8 years ago, There's this game called Until Dawn. You ever play that game? What do you think about that game, man?
Well, the movie that's coming out now. I don't know, but it's pretty close to the game Until Dawn. But
Is a movie coming out?
mm-hmm.
See, I ain't know nothing about that. But that game came out like what? By like
It's you remember Dawn of the Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that movie coming out. See, when I played Until Dawn, that was like the most realistic game that I've ever played. Until Dawn. It has certain parts of the game where it actually does an auto, like a scene where it actually plays out a scene, and you don't know when the scene is over because it just your player is just standing there and you got to make it do stuff. That game right there, man, changed my whole like perception on those games, bro. Because I think before Until Dawn, the most realistic game was probably shoot, I don't even remember before Until Dawn. Like, what was the ideal game that that was the game of all games before Until Dawn, and then after that, it's been games to come out, but that right there was because it had a real actor in the game. What's that guy name? He actually played in that movie The Little Things with Denzel Washington. Yeah, Google it. That guy that played in The Little Things, he was in the game Until Dawn, and seeing his character in that game, like that was like the realest thing. I actually started. What's his name?
It was Rami Malek, Jared Leto, and Chris Bauer.
In what?
Chris Bauer was a detective.
And on The Little Things?
Yeah.
Yeah, so is that him right on the game, right?
I think it was Chris Bauer.
In the game?
Yeah.
Until Dawn? That guy. When I saw how real the game was and saw the actual actor that was in the game and seeing how real it was, that was a game changer for me. And now you saying they got a movie coming out.
Oh, you got to see the trailer. It's got here. I'll put it. I don't know. You want to see it?
Shoot, yeah, I want to see it.
I tell you, watch that trailer, man. It's gonna be good.
Army of the Dead.
Yeah, it has the Zombie King and the other girl, the Queen. And they're in LA. LA is the dead zone. After they're with the zombie infection and everything. So they make it seem like he's all chill in the beginning of the movie, and then when they start getting the team together to go out and recover this money.
Oh, that's the movie with Amari Hardwick in it. I think that movie's out now, right?
You just knowing about it now?
I've seen it on. Oh, I gotta watch that tonight, bro. Is it out? Is it out? If it's out, I'm watching it tonight on my Fire Stick on Cinema HD. If you don't have Cinema HD or IPTV, give me a call. I can get you. Oh, and that's the boy from Walking Dead, Glenn.
Yeah, Glenn.
Oh, I gotta watch this tonight.
I just saw
Oh,
who
yeah.
be playing the team, who the actors
Yes.
were. I was like, oh, man, this. And then they're making it.
But
like
this
a
ain't
And then they're making it like Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some people say that Omari Hardwick left Power so he could pursue other. May 21st. What's the date? The 21st ain't it? 22nd ain't it? Ain't the 22nd? Oh, it's over. Hey, look. You got fire stick at home?
I got.
If you ain't got a fire stick at home, hit me up. I got some fire sticks for you.
Just to watch the movie. Just get it just to watch the movie.
You got Cinema HD. You got Cyberflix. That movie is on there right now. I remember I saw the tag of that movie when I was looking, and I marked it because I wanted to see Ghost from Power on that movie. So I'm gonna watch that tonight. But anyway, Until Dawn is a game that has a group of teenagers. They going out to a not a log cabin, but like the guy that played on The Little Things. His character. His parents are rich, and they left him like a boathouse or something, some kind of like vacation home. Him and all his friends get together at this house, and it might be like Halloween or something like that. They put on this little show, and then now this is the game now. All of a sudden, one at a time, each one of them start disappearing. Got a couple of couples there. They sneak off to have sex, and then they end up getting snatched up by these little shadow monsters or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And the name of the game is Until Dawn. So you have to survive until dawn because the sunlight kills these things, right? And so it's parts of the game where it actually turns into a auto movie or whatever, and it plays out. And so one part of the game is a dog approach you, a little stray dog. You have to make a decision to either feed the dog or to shoot a dog off. But it's almost like the butterfly effect. Whatever you do, it has a ripple effect to later on down the line. So that same dog, if you choose to feed that dog, right, the dog remembers that, and then later on in the game, when you're getting attacked by one of those things, that same dog shows up and he can help you or he can run away. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those type of games. One part about the game is that this girl's hanging off a cliff, and you can choose to let her fall or try to save her. And whatever you do affects the rest of the game. You'll see like the screen do like a like ripple thing when you make a decision, and then later on down the game, like her not being there. Later on, you might be on something where another person is needed to balance out this seesaw type situation, and because she ain't there,
you got like quick time events.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So the game is set up so nicely. I played that game back in 2005 or something like that, and that was at that time the realistic game that I thought they ever came out with. So the technology is changing so fast.
Yeah. Didn't they make a movie exactly like that?
I don't know. I thought that's what you were talking about.
I said it was like sort of similar in the sense with the, you know.
Yeah, they did have some shadow monsters in the game, but I don't know if they have a movie.
Because I remember seeing a trailer about. I don't know if it was like a release on HBO or if it was just like a one-time thing. But there was a movie where these teens, you know, if they were couples, whatever, they went out to this place, and like I said, it's not a cabin, it's kind of like a vacation home.
Yeah.
And they went there, and it was dark, you know, and as the day was going, as the night was going by, they started disappearing, you know, and every time one would disappear, they would try to go out and find them.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then more would start disappearing after that, and there'd be this one monster appeared at the end, towards the end of the trailer, and he was sort of like a shadowy type monster, and they would attack the teens head on, like towards the end of the show when there's maybe only like 2 or 3 of them left, I think. And
Yeah.
it sounds like that might be pretty similar to.
I'm gonna have to look up that movie
Yeah.
because if it was anything like that game, boy, that they actually have these podcast shows where they play games and you just watch it.
Yeah, streamers.
Streamers, okay. So you can actually type in Until Dawn live game, and you be watching somebody else play this game. But the thing about it, the game itself is 13-hour game. It's a 13-hour game. So if you started playing that game in one day, it'll take you 13 hours to complete it. But like you say, everything you do in the game affects the outcome of the game, and it changes the timing on the game and all that. And I remember when I was in Oklahoma, the church I went to, the pastor, he actually turned me on to it, playing that game.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I just don't have it in me to play no game for 13 hours unless it's something like Madden. I have been guilty of playing Madden for 4 to 8 hours straight. When I was in the Marine Corps, me and my roommate, I like to play the season mode. Take my team from, to preseason to the Super Bowl. And I would always do a created player. And I would create the player, and I would take the player from the rookie all the way to like his 10th year in the league, and try to break Emmitt Smith records and Walter Payton records and all that in 3 days. You know what I mean? But I get hooked on it so much till I don't eat no food, don't take no shower for 3-4 days, and just that addictiveness. I'm like, if I started playing some games now, I wouldn't be able to get no work done. So
yeah, there's some games that'll get you hooked like that.
I know my limits, man, on stuff like that. I don't touch it because I got. I guess it's addictive personality or whatever, man. When you start playing games and get hooked on them, it become addictive. Wake up in the morning before you even, after you say your prayers and brush your teeth, you go in the game. You be on the game all day. You go out to go get some fresh air, come back, run back in and get on that game. Yeah. I done been like, I think I binge watched when I started watching Walking Dead. I binge watched The Walking Dead for like 4 days. I went through like the first 3 or 4 seasons of Walking Dead in 3 days. Just binge watched it. Couldn't go nowhere. I would get an attitude when somebody called my phone and like asked me to do something. Eat! Why we gotta eat today? I eat when the show go off. I ain't trying to eat right now. So
just wait till the episode's over, then I guess
But then you keep going to the next episode. Yeah. Like, I can't stop now. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I gotta go work in the morning. Well, forget that. I'll just give me a couple hours of sleep. I'll get back up in the morning and finish watching. Yeah,
I would do that. I would do that all the time with anime. I would, like, with the shows, the Japanese shows that come on. They release in Japan, and then I have a subscription with a service called Crunchyroll, where you can watch the show an hour after it premieres in Japan. So I can watch it the same day. And then some shows that are already out, like if it's a show that I like, if it's a short season, like 12 episodes, and they're maybe like 30 minutes long each episode, I'll do a quick binge, and I'll finish the show in like a day. Yeah, because this was more towards when I had more free time. The way technology affects everyone's lives, like the streaming, since streaming services started, like Netflix, Hulu, technology makes things easier for you, every day. Really.
Yeah, easy is not always good.
That's true. Easy
because since the birth of the smartphone, you don't have to remember phone numbers anymore.
Now when you crack your phone, or you lose your phone, or you don't back up your phone, that's it. Unless you got a cloud service, it's hooked up to it where you got your stuff backing up automatically. But,
I am guilty that if I was to have to go and, you tell you go to jail, you get that one free phone call.
Mm-hmm.
I be asking for my phone because I don't know nobody's phone number. I type in the name mama, bro, and I just type the name and hit it. If somebody asks, matter of fact, I got two phones, one for the plug and one for the load, right? The second phone, I don't know the phone number. I have to go to the settings and go to about phone and look at it because somebody was I was doing something online and trying to like they were trying to confirm my phone. I'm like, who number is this? Like, who number is that? I don't know who number this is. And I looked at it. Oh, that's my number. So the smartphones are making us lazy.
Yes, that's true.
Because we're not remembering anything. We're putting everything in our phone.
It makes things. Maybe I'll rephrase it. It makes things more convenient.
Yes, that would be a true statement. Things are getting more convenient, and they're getting easier per se as far as lack of work. But it's really making us lazy because we're not using the most powerful computer is our brain. We're relying on the man-made handheld version to do all the thinking. Ain't that something?
Yeah.
That we got the intelligence to create these things to make us not use our brain.
Yeah, we can't use all our brain either.
Can't unlock all of it. What's that movie? Salt. You seen Salt?
I think it was Salt. Is that what it?
I think it's Salt. Well, they said the woman in the movie had the ability to unlock 100%.
See, something happened with the chemicals or whatever that she was carrying, and
do you believe that?
Yeah, because our brains. Yeah, I mean you can look it up. There have been scientific studies, but the most that anyone has used their brains to a potential has been like 10% of their brain.
That is unbelievable. So you mean to tell me that the brain, the human mind, the brain, as complex as it is, as complex people as we are, that the smartest person in the world has only unlocked 10% of their brain?
Now you may think, well, that's not, it's crazy. What does, but think about it. We're not perfect beings. So our brain ain't gonna be perfect either. Perfection is 100%. And we're never at 100%.
But is it, so if I believe that we were created in a perfect sense, that God created us in the likeness and image of Himself, if we was created perfect, but we haven't discovered on how to unlock 100% of our brain, is that a difference?
Now that kind of goes into the line as into what your beliefs are and how you split science versus philosophy versus religious teachings. And honestly, for me, we were created perfect, and from what I believe, and I'm sure a lot of people know the Adam and Eve story. I mean, we lost that perfection. There's only one person in the whole human existence that has had that perfection, after Adam lost it, and
so, but how does that relate to the ability or the inability to unlock 100% functionality of your brain?
Well, 100% would mean you're perfect. And
so if I had a computer and I only use 10% of the computer, is the computer defective or is it a user error?
Let's see, was it designed only to be used 10%? Or did
If it was designed to be used 100%, but you only have the knowledge to use 10%, because I can tell you right now, this phone that I got right here, I've had this phone for not even a full year yet. And I can tell you that I don't even know everything that phone can do. Like the way the phone was designed to use, I'm so used to only doing certain things till the other stuff I haven't even had time to sit down and like take a class on how to use it. So the designer of that phone, if he was to sit down and tell me everything that phone can do, I probably can say I'm only using maybe 10% of that phone. The phone is not defective. It's just that I don't know how to use all of the functions of that phone. The computer is not defective, but if you're only using the computer for emails, browsing, and you got like 80% of the computer, you haven't even used it, is there anything wrong with the computer? So I'm asking a question like for as far as our brain, our human brain, I don't know if it's possible to unlock 100% of the brain. Like I don't know what 100% of the brain can do if you get some type of special ability or whatever when you unlock the other 80%. But if our lifestyle only requires us to use 10%, and this is where I think that the most powerful, we talk about the most powerful computer in the world is your brain because it does so many things. The brain is so powerful. Like, to be able to create something from nothing and make it work. Think about the person that invented the helicopter. The helicopter is dynamically not supposed to function, right? Because the way it is designed, it's not supposed to be able to work. But to think that out of thin air and make that work, I just think that that's a miracle all in itself. It's awesome to be able to do that. But does the ability to unlock certain areas of your brain, does that make you exceptional? Or does it just make you see the movie oh my god, Split? Mm-hmm. So you seen the part two of the what the other movie was? So it was Split, and then it was the other movie, Mr. Glass.
Mr. Glass, yeah.
All right, so Mr. Glass had the guy Split in it, right?
Yeah.
And this guy in Split, I don't know his name, but he had the ability to walk on the walls and walk on the ceiling. When he had the ability to turn himself into a beast, right? Mm-hmm. Was that an actual superpower, or was that something that he was able to do inside his mind by unlocking another area of his brain that normal people don't do, because it's almost like a survival thing? Like, I believe that we have the power and ability to do more than we think when survival is at its best. So here's an example. How much do a car weigh? Average car, how much do a car weigh?
Like 5,000-6,000.
5,000 or 6,000 pounds, right? Yeah. Let's just say 5,000 pounds just to be on the safe side. There was a story that a father was in the car with either his daughter or his wife or something like that. They got into an accident and the car ended up landing on top of the woman. This guy was probably your size, maybe smaller, might have been a tad bit bigger. Don't care how big he was. Under normal circumstances, are humans able to pick up 5,000 pounds? What's our limit on what we can do? We don't know. Depending on what you're doing, you're training for a strongman competition. This guy was not a professional athlete. He was not even an athlete at all. A regular, average Joe Blow dude. But because his adrenaline was pumping when he saw his loved one buried by that car, not only was he able to lift up the car to get her from underneath it before the mobile medic came, and they was in shock all of them. How did she was pinned on, how did she get from under the car? And he said, I got it from underneath there. How did you do this? I picked up the car. This man had so much adrenaline in his body that he was able to, we say 5,000 pounds, 5,000 pound car off his loved one because he didn't want. Then when I was in law enforcement, I heard a story of a guy who had been high on some drugs. I don't know what the drugs was, but his blood heart was racing through the roof. This joker took about 30 or 40 shots, chest, back. They unloaded on him. The police did. And he still was able to run a half a mile before his body collapsed because his brain was still telling his body to run. Then there was another story I heard where this guy was doing some parachuting or whatever. Ended up jumping out of a plane, blase. Parachute didn't come out the right way or whatever. Ended up hitting the ground at such a force, he bounced 3 times after he hit the ground, got up and still ran like a half a mile before his body collapsed. So when I hear stories like that, some people call them superhumans. You know what I mean? And then I see movies and things like, oh, well, you know, if you unlock a certain percentage of your brain, you can do extraordinary things. Now, is that one and the same? Or do you think that the more of your brain you use, the more superhero you appear? Or is it just something you think that, you know, you can control certain things? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because this can get very deep. You know?
Yeah.
If you know, when you dealing with God and spiritual, you can't mix that with science because it won't mix. But just for the sake of understanding, or for the sake of conversating, just because we don't know how to unlock 100% of our brain, does that mean that we're imperfect, or that just means that we don't have the blueprint to unlock all our brain? What do you think?
Well, like you said, the conversation could get deep.
Well, hey, we inside the den, baby. You know, we can get as deep as we want to inside the den.
Well, we'll go a little bit into the religious aspect part of it.
Okay, let's go there.
And in the Bible, you know, again, story Adam and Eve. You know, Adam was Eve. They were perfect. They were created perfect beings. You know, perfect humans. You know, they had the capacity to do, you know, whatever they wanted, under God's instruction, and they lost that the moment, Eve was tainted. She sinned. She did something that she wasn't supposed to. She, violated a direct order of God, and they lost that perfection. Now, depending how you look at the story, if you believe in the Bible, if you believe in science, if you don't believe in anything, but since the beginning of time, history itself has demonstrated that we've gone from close to perfection since the beginning of time to less perfection the longer the humans have existed. For example, before, humans were able to live a lot longer than what humans can live now. The average human lifespan nowadays, we're looking at maybe 70, 80. Again, average. There are people that live past 90. But we'll say back in the day, you had people having kids in their 70s and their 80s.
Yeah. Abraham was one of them.
Yeah, exactly. And you're thinking nowadays, you're like, that's impossible, But then again, at that time in history, we were closer to, the perfection than we were now. So our bodies were capable of, doing things that we're not able to do now, simply because, our bodies they weren't disintegrating as fast as they were disintegrating now. Scientifically proven, if you mix a little bit of science and religion, we'll say that, we'll mix it a little bit. Just as an example, people thought the earth was flat back in the day. Talking like old school history back in, Greeks and Romans and back before that time, people said, hey, the earth was flat, and, there's nothing to prove them wrong. There's nothing to prove them right. That's just what was believed at that time. However, if you study the Bible and you go into scriptures that were written, long ago in ancient times, that there were the writers who wrote certain books in the Bible that specifically say the earth was not flat. Or the earth, some people would say the earth was hanging over a turtle or an elephant. Or, I don't know if you've seen those pictures before in books where they have the globe and then they have like a turtle underneath the earth, and then they have like an elephant holding up the turtle. Just lots of beliefs, But in the Bible, it says that the earth is hanging over nothing. And this was back in ancient times when people believed the complete opposite. There's scriptures in the Bible that point out towards the earth being actually round and not flat. And this was back in ancient times when the beliefs at that time were the complete opposite, where the earth was flat. So, and you can get deeper into those subjects as well. But, just as an example, the Bible can get scientific as well, and there are certain facts in the Bible too that, over the course of time, people have discovered that are true because they've dug up certain relics or they've dug up certain papers or manuscripts, things that were written in the past that people didn't believe before, but they believe now, because they've seen it or it's been discovered, or it's been translated, and it's a big, it's a big subject. It's a touchy subject, to some people, but I just believe that according to what I've learned, what I've studied, that we're not meant to reach that perfection. We lost it. God is. We had that. I'm not saying us because we weren't alive at that time, but the human race had a chance, and we lost that chance. And so we can get as close to 100 or as close to perfect as we can get, but we're never going to be at 100%.
I believe that. I believe that the pursuit of perfection is what God is after. The pursuit. If you really want to, and if you break down, what pursuit is actively, aggressively chasing after certain things. So if you're in a pursuit of something, then as long as the bar isn't moved, if you're pursuing something, eventually you're going to reach that goal, correct? But what if the bar is constantly moving, and so your pursuit is constantly moving? It's almost like that rabbit at the dog race where they have that rabbit running in front of the dog, and that dog is chasing that rabbit because he thinks that he's going to catch that rabbit, when in actuality he's never going to catch the rabbit. But the pursuit is what causes him to win or lose the race, because he's racing against other dogs that's doing the same thing, right? So I think the pursuit of perfection is what God is after, because you are actively pursuing something in a constant state of pursuit. When it comes down to the, people living longer back in the day than there was before, my opinion and my understanding of that is this: because God doesn't live and operate in the time the way we do. Time was created to govern our days and nights and things like that. And so if you're talking about the Garden of Eden, when God was talking to Adam, and said, "Don't eat of the tree of life, for in the day you will surely die." So let's break that down for a minute. The tree of life is a tree that if they would have ate of that tree without sin, they would have been able to live forever if they'd ate of the tree of life. So after they sinned, the tree was cut off and guarded by, by what he had, guarded by, so that they wouldn't be able to eat of the tree of life, because after sinning, if they'd ate of the tree of life, they would have been able to live forever with a sinful nature. So when he said the part about within a day you'll surely die, some theologians believe that 1,000 years with God is a day. So I say something like you're not going to, within a day, you're going to die. And if I equal a day as 1,000 years, right? Then when Adam ate of the fruit, he died two deaths. He died a natural death and a spiritual one as well, because he only lived to be 937 years, which is short of 1,000. So I mean, he didn't live a full day. Then he died spiritually because he was disconnected when he sinned, because there's no sin in God. God is perfect. So the moment that Adam sinned, God had to, the promise of Christ coming had to be put in play. And as long as he allowing us to live 900 plus years, then it's going to take forever for him to put this plan in motion. So no one lived longer than Methuselah, was 973 years. And the only thing that the Bible really says about Methuselah is that he lived, he had children, and he died. So he didn't have his life didn't have any purpose. So to go and live a 900-year life without any purpose is almost like a waste. So let's speed things up. I'm only going to promise you, humans, 73 years or 72 years. So we go from to be with God a full day, 1,000 years for now, because you failed. So we're not going to be able to live, a full day. So everybody's going to be dying within a day. 937 years, 973 years, then 800 years, 840, 830, 820, down to 600, 500 years. I believe Noah was out there for a long time before, and then Abraham had a son in his, he was 70 plus, and his wife was 90 plus years old when she had the baby. Now to where we're barely able to live for 73 years. That's a huge change in the last 2,000 years, which is where, most theologians believe that we are right now within that second day of living the 2,000 year. It can get real deep. But I don't think that what we was talking about before, we're never going to reach the mark of being perfect. Jesus walked the earth and he was sinless. But we got to understand and realize who Jesus was. Jesus was God wrapped in the flesh. He was a fleshy manifestation of God. But God is never going to tell us to do something that can't be done. I remember growing up and my dad used to tell me to do certain things, and after trying and failing, I was convinced that this can't be done. He's telling me to do something that he can't even. I don't believe my dad can do this. I will fail at it. And my dad would look at me and say, if I do this, I'm going to beat you because you're playing.
Yeah.
And then with almost like effortless, he would do this thing, and I'm looking at him like, I've been out here all day trying to do this, and he comes in with one hand and effortlessly do this. And I remember my dad telling me that I'm never going to tell you to do something that I can't do myself. And when I realized that, the truth behind that, God is never going to require us to do something that he can't do himself or hasn't already been done. Jesus is our example on how to walk the earth. The same problems that was going on in the world, well, I was not saying problem, but the same sins that was going on in the world when Jesus walked are the same sins now.
Yeah.
And he walked the earth and he was able to be sinless. The only difference is everything is more flamboyant now. You know what I'm saying?
Attractive.
Everything, and the devil knows that his time is coming to an end, so he's more aggressive now than it ever been before. I remember before you heard about the Illuminati, it was like almost a secret, right? Certain symbols, you have to know what there are to say that this is a, satanic or symbolic, to. Now it's almost like they put it in your face. They don't even care. They're more aggressive now because you know what I mean. It's almost like we bold with it now. Back in the days, it used to be, oh my God, frowned upon to be in any kind of closet. Whether you trapped in the closet with R. Kelly or whether you in the closet of your sexuality, now it's like a whole community, a whole movement on this movement, and it's almost like if you're not part of the movement, then you're the one that's looked that's frowned upon. You know what I mean? That's the boldness of where we are as a society now versus back in the day. Now there was two cities that God purposely destroyed back in the Bible days, Sodom and Gomorrah. And when Lot was leaving the city, he told him, do not look back, for if you do, you will turn to a pillar of salt. And Lot was straightforward in his vision to get out of there. And his wife looked back and she became a pillar of salt. So at that moment, this connection happened, because now if I can't look back at what she was looking at, because I'll be one too. You know?
Yeah, you'll turn into one too.
Either I got to keep moving forward and find me a new wife on the other side, or I just have to learn how to live without one because she was hard-headed. That was almost parallel to where Adam and Eve was in the Garden of Eden, because she ate of the fruit first. Nothing happened until he ate of the fruit, because the covenant was with him and not her. But it's almost like if he would have detached from her at that point, then the story would have went a different direction. So where we are now as a society, it makes me nervous, because if you read the Bible and you find out and learn why God decided to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and then you check the temperature of the world today, it almost sounds like the United States is a modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. The same things that they were doing in the Bible, if you look at the world, some of the same things going on right now. And the United States is supposed to be a powerhouse country that has some authority and power over all the nations and things like that. The problem is, if we don't get things right, what is going to be the outcome? The first time God destroyed the earth was with water, and it says next time it's going to be with what? Fire. Speaking in terms of the water and how he created and recreated, some theologians believe that this is our third time already. If you look at Genesis 1:1, Genesis 1:2, in the beginning, God created the heaven and earth, and the earth was without form and void, and the Spirit of the Lord hovered over the waters. Where did the water come from? The water was there when he started creating, because you don't read in the book, the Bible, about the dinosaurs, but we know the dinosaurs existed because people keep digging up bones of the dinosaurs. As they was there, were they destroyed when God destroyed the earth the first time, and they was under the water. And if you look at the Grand Canyon as it looks, and then look at the floor of the ocean, it looks the same. So it looks like the Grand Canyon used to be underwater at one point. And so when you dig deep into this, we can go as deep, in this thing.
Yeah.
But I was talking about that to say this, about the Sodom and Gomorrah. If you was to pinpoint the location of where Sodom and Gomorrah used to exist, there is no evidence or no proof that it ever existed. Can you imagine like a whole two cities not only being destroyed, but when you look at it from the map, look at it from an area view, what city?
Turned into the same sand and dust that it was built on.
And that's the thing. We was created from the dust of the ground. And when we die, we go back into the same dust of the ground. But here's the thing. Going back to unlocking 100% of your brain. That's what we talking about, right?
Yeah.
We was created in the likeness and image of God. When you read the story of creation, it's a key thing that you'll notice about the way God created everything else versus the way he created man. I'm going to give you a clue. When he said, let there be light, there was light. So he spoke the light into existence and it happened. Which is equivalent to us speaking things into existence. When you say, I want to start this podcast 2 months ago or 3 months ago, and you start talking about podcasts, and then a podcast happens, that's you speaking into existence. But as I was reading the story, everything that God created before he created man, he spoke it into existence. Then he said, let us create man in the likeness and image of, and then he stopped. He actually takes the dirt from the ground and creates, and he breathes the breath of life into the man. Now he could have spoke man into existence, but why did he think he chose to not speak the man but create the man? And when he breathed the breath of life into the man, I believe he also breathed his power into the man as well, so that when the man got off the ground, he was able to create with the same power as God. So if I want something to happen, if I'm only using 10% of my brain and I can make something happen by speaking it, imagine how much power I would possess if I was able to unlock the other 80% of my brain. Do you think that I will be able to, like we talked about earlier, think about somebody and call their phone? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We can travel at the speed of sound, at the speed of light in these different spaceships, but how about traveling at the speed of thought? See, when you see things like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, and she say, if I click my heels 3 times and say, there's no place like home, I'll be home. And she clicked her heels 3 times, there's no place like, and she was at home. That's the speed of that's speaking something into existence. But what if Dorothy, all she had to do was think about home, and then she was at home? The whole song, when I think of home, I think of a place with love. Before she clicked her heels, she sung a whole song, and then she went home. So what if we had the power to travel at the speed of thought? Like, I want to go to, oh man, you was there. There was a story, I forgot the name of it, but it was a story of a pastor who had a church, and he'd been pastoring for 30 plus years. He ended up dying in the hospital, and while he was on the operating table, he got it from his body, and he goes into the second dimension with this angel. The angel escorts him to God, and he had to plead for his life. Like, I want to go back to my body. And God's like, why? What are you doing? Why should you go back? And so part of the story was he was going through the second and third dimension. He was able to see demons in their natural form. He was able to see, like all the demons that we talk about, he was able to see, and he saw one of them in action. So a man and a woman in a break room, and they was talking to each other, and in between the man and the woman was a demon standing there, and the demon was waiting on them to be on the same accord, and it was a lust demon, right? Grotesque looking, horrendous looking demon, but he was standing in the room with the two people, and as soon as both of them had some similar thoughts, he jumped in one of them. He disappeared, went inside the man, and that was when the man, was perverted or whatever. But in the story, the guy is telling the story how he's with this angel and he's being escorted to heaven and he's going through these different dimensions. And he said he was noticing that certain times of the journey they was actually walking, looking around. He noticed certain things about the feet, blah blah blah. Then he said there's other times where the angel was talking and they was traveling at the speed of thought. When the angel starts speaking, they was there. He notices that, and he's writing his book, his memoir about his experience and everything. And I think that that is very significant, because if you are talking about unlocking 100% of the brain and how powerful that would be, and you relate 100% of the brain as being like perfect, which we know that we can't be perfect because we was born imperfect when we were born in sin. I believe that the pursuit of it is what God is actually looking for. But also, we possess the ability to create something from nothing. We possess the ability to speak into existence the way God did. But I believe that being able to unlock certain parts and certain percentages of the brain would give you certain abilities that you don't even understand, because we don't have the understanding of our Creator. And I think that's very interesting that you say that, because certain answers to certain questions, I believe, would never be answered until you go to the other side. Somebody asked me, if you had a chance to talk to Jesus, what would you say, or how would you go say when you go to heaven? I don't think the little petty stuff that we actually worry about right now, if you had a chance to really go and ask, God one question about humanity, what would it be? I don't think you're gonna really be worried about that when you get the chance to go to heaven, because that's gonna be so petty. In the fact of how hard it is to live and how much of a journey it is to try to make it to heaven. Once you get rewarded with something like eternal life, who cares? You know what I'm saying? These little petty questions you might have as a ignorant human when it comes down to having the conversation with the Almighty God. I don't know. I just think that there are certain things that we will never know the answers to. There are certain things that we don't need to know the answers to. It's just probably just that pursuit to dig and dig and dig and dig until you feel like you have mastered everything, but you're never going to master everything. It's an understanding. I don't think our brains can handle the understanding that God has. Our heads would probably explode if
Just
we were,
like you saw the latest. It's been already released for a few years now, but the latest Indiana Jones movie, the Crystal Skull. It's the last one that Indiana Jones made.
I would have to probably go and.
It's the Crystal Skull. It starts out. I mean, he was old, but now he's even older. But yeah, it's basically the Germans will say the Nazis are at it again. Same as the other movies where the Nazis are always involved with Indiana Jones and the Germans and the pursuit of godly artifacts. Like the Covenant and such. So the movie starts out with basically the Nazis, trying to go after the Covenant again. They're in the warehouse where the Covenant is stored, and they're trying to steal it back. But as the movie goes on, it moves into this crystal skull, which at the end of the movie, it gets a in my opinion, it gets a little bit too far fetched, but it ties into that pursuit of knowledge. Apparently, the crystal skull belongs to another being who supposedly came to Earth, and that being was split into multiple parts, and the skull was a part of that being that was split. And so the pursuit of knowledge of that being, because that being did not come from Earth, it came from outside of Earth, is what caused the whole movie, the whole chase, the treasure hunting, the knowledge hunting. And it turns out at the end of the movie that the Germans actually do get the crystal skull, the lady that, is part of the Nazis. And she ends up recovering the skull, and she sees the being, and it turns out that she starts absorbing all this knowledge from the being, from the mind, because she had the possession of the skull, and she said, I want to know everything. She wants to know it all. And she starts taking in all this knowledge, and the mind starts, it starts to slowly just explode because it can't understand everything that it's absorbing.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't understand it.
I believe that it's for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because the moment you feel like you know everything, you start thinking like you're God. There was a reason why God forbid them from eating of the tree of knowledge in the first place. It was the devil who told them that, is it true that you would surely die, or is it God trying to make you think that you're going to die? Because when you open your eyes and mind, you're going to know, and you're going to be like a God, or you're going to be knowledgeable as God. See, knowledge is power, right? But I believe that the pursuit of knowledge is power as well. But when one thinks that he knows everything, then that's the problem, because then you think that you're God, or you think that you have the mind like God and you can judge people like God. It's a problem when our children think that they know more than a parent. You know what I mean? As a father, you talk to kids, I brought you in this world, like the old saying, I take you out. Or you feel like when you think you know more than me, then you can be on your own, because then you too grown to be under my house. So I think that when people pursue knowledge, is good, but to pursue knowledge and try to be perfect is when the problem comes, because that's when the conceit, that's when the pride comes in. That's when the think you know everything, and then you don't have to pray to God because you think you are God. Or you think, well, I know just as much as God. Your head would explode. And it's another thing. People always ask, these scientists and these different things, are we alone in the universe? If you look at the solar system and what planet Earth is based on the rest of the solar system, and the Milky Way and all the galaxies in the world, like, we are just a small player in a big galaxy. So everything that's going on down here or in this atmosphere, do you really think we're by ourselves, or you think it's other? That could be a whole nother conversation right there. Are we alone in the universe? Do you think that we are alone? Do you think that we're the only, functioning, intelligent beings that God created? Do you think that? Do you think that there are other things out there like aliens and different dimensions? I mean, those are some questions that people's like, well, how do we ever find an answer? I don't think we're supposed to find the answers to those things. I think that, like I said, once you get to heaven, if you make it, you get to heaven, maybe it's something you can ask God, but I don't think you want to know. I don't think you really want to know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. How important is that question? Is it important enough for you to live your life all the way right so that you can guarantee a spot in heaven? So you can hold on to that one question and say, "Are we alone in the universe, Lord? Or were we alone? Or can you show me everything that you had going on? Can you show me the bigger picture, like all the other galaxies?" And I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. This is just something that goes on in my mind when I'm thinking about certain things and stuff like that. And um, I don't know. We inside the den, so you tell me what you think. Is it something that we need to be trying to figure out, or is it something we should just let it go and focus on what what we trying to do? I don't know. I just think that too much knowledge will make you crazy. So you got to explain every single thing in this world and how it does it. Everything that God does doesn't make sense scientifically.
Well, in my experience of study, I'll say I'm a huge history buff. Um, about ancient cultures and the history of humanity, and in school, those were my favorite subjects. Anything relating to our history, to the history of us as human beings, that has always gotten my attention, and I've always pursued knowledge in that aspect. And so, from what I've studied, and going back to the example of that pursuit where you think you're getting to the line and then the line starts moving up more.
Mm-hmm.
In the history of man, we'll say, every time we've tried to reach that perfection, or we've tried to gain more knowledge than what we should know, or that we're trying to find out something that we shouldn't know or shouldn't be finding out, God has stepped in.
This is true. The Tower of Babel is proof. God confused their language and confused the communication so they wouldn't be able to be on one accord to reach their destination, because it's true that when we are all on one accord, amazing things happen. And I think that's what, like I say, I think that it's not meant for us to know everything. And I was talking to, as I was pulling up here earlier, I was talking to a friend of mine, matter of fact, talking to Ontario, and I was telling him about when you have an apprentice and you're teaching your apprentice your craft. You never give him 100% of what he needs. You always give him 80, 75, 80%. You leave 10 or 20% for growth. You give it room to grow. If I give you 100% of what I know, then the relationship is not needed. If I just give you everything. If I spoon feed you a little bit at a time, you can always come back for more. But what happens if I give you more than what I got, or give you everything I got, then you come back and I'm like, grasshopper, your training is complete. I have no more knowledge for you at this time. Like, I can't give you something that I don't have. I need to find somebody advanced than me so I can get from them so I can get to you. But when you have given everything you have, there's no need to come back for the next round, because you just given everything. So in terms of being this person that's trying to pursue all this knowledge, if God was to give you everything, one, your head would explode. Two, if you was able to some kind of way absorb it all, then we wouldn't need to pray or thank him for it. It'd just be a one-shot thing. And I don't know, but that's a whole nother conversation, right? So I'm gonna do this before we get off. I'm gonna do an impression. We was doing a lot of Denzel Washington last time because we were talking about you want to go to jail or you want to go home. Okay, all right. So I wrote this joke about 3-4 years ago, and I said, well, what would it be like if Denzel Washington was a pastor of a church? What would that sound like? And then I started going into this whole impression like, all right, okay. And he was reading the 23rd Psalms, and he say, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He making me lie down in green pastures, okay? He leading me beside the still waters. You want to go to hell or you want to go home, Jake? All right, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Sister Johnson, you want to go to hell or you want to go home? All right. You read the 23rd Psalms, okay? And you decide, is the Lord going to be your shepherd or your sheep? Huh? Okay? You're going to be your shepherd or your sheep? God help me. So that's my impression for the day.
That was well done. Well done.
So listen, you all have been vibing with me and Caleb here inside the den. This was and I'm surprised. This was a great conversation. We was able to get inside the skull of Caleb and see how he really thinks about certain things. It was a pleasure having him on the show. I will admit that we did have some mix-ups during the week with who was going to be here today, and Caleb stepped in like he always do. Clutch. I'm gonna start calling you Clutch. Come in and Clutch and had this conversation with me today. So yeah, y'all like us and subscribe us Inside the Den on YouTube, Inside the Den on Instagram, Inside the Den on Facebook. And we are on, I have a hard time pronouncing this word, Twitch, right? Twitch.
Yep.
Twitch. So we are on Twitch, Inside the Den. This show will be airing every Saturday at 3:30. And you're going to get a chance to hear some more conversation with us Inside the Den and see what we think about and what our thought process is on a certain thing. If you like the show, if so far you like what we're talking about, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think about it, what you feeling, what you're thinking, comments, things like that. I would definitely get back with you. But we definitely had a good time here today talking to Caleb. He is my engineer that works all of this equipment around here, sets everything up and everything. And we had a conversation 2 weeks ago, but it was off camera. I think you recorded it, but you didn't post it, right?
Yeah. No,
and I said we should post that, and I was giving him the hint that I wanted him to post it, but he never hit the button. So I thought it would be a good idea to have him come out today and talk because I don't know, he's very he said he wasn't a good public speaker, but what do you think? Y'all let me know. I think he did pretty good, and I don't know if I can twist his arm to get him to come back on the show again, but wave everybody. Caleb, you see everybody now. This might be the only time you see this joker here behind the camera. So it was definitely a pleasure for him to step from behind the camera and behind the computer for a change and give us a real good time. And I appreciate you, brother, for coming out.
Thank you.
Appreciate you for coming out and stepping in at the last minute. But yeah, that's our show for today. This is episode 2. We will be doing some scheduling a little bit different. Juneteenth, which is June 19th, we're going to do a June 18th show. And then the 19th, we're going to do a live at the Juneteenth event. I'm going to walk around and interview some people, things like that. I have on June the 5th, I have a special guest coming from Georgia, the Statesboro, Georgia area. I'm going to be doing a show all geared toward young men. I have a 15-year-old and a 21-year-old. They are a up-and-coming, aspiring rappers. We're going to talk to them. I have one of my guys, Mr. Jadell. He's a music producer. He's going to be in with those guys as well, kind of talking some hip hop music, rap language and all that. And I'm going to let them talk and I'm going to learn some things from them. So those are some upcoming shows. My best friend will be here in a couple of weeks to do a show with us. So I am super excited about the next few months we got coming up as it pertains to what's going on inside the den. So you all stay tuned. When I'm on live throughout the week, y'all just chime in, comment, and you can get off however y'all want to do it. But I definitely appreciate y'all support so far. And we will see you all next time inside the den. This your boy Daniel Lyons and Evans signing off. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.